little shift here. I don't want you to have my back. I have encouraged the panel that this is a conversation. So I have some questions to prompt that conversation, but I want them to interact with each other as well. So we're not just going to go down the line and say, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay? I am going to call an audible, though. I gave them questions to consider. And given this morning's powerful experience, I'd like to start there. This morning was an incredibly powerful story. It may have been a news story for some people, and it is still just part of a story, a greater story. So I'd like to ask the panel, what are you feeling? What's rising up within you as you were listening to Addie Lorraine share this morning? As you listened to people at your table, as you experienced that, what are the emotions? What are the feelings? What is rising up within you? And I invite anyone to go ahead and grab a mic as you feel called.
When I was listening Sister Addie Lorraine, and well, it came to me that her story resonates a lot with my own story with the S's and D's too. And well, I can say that it resonates. It's not, how can I say this? To be most of the time in the communities, the person who is from another country and still struggling with the language. Sometimes the tendency to fit in the place is adaptation. And I have done that a lot of time. And sometimes it's not very healthy. So in that sense, I am grateful that you shared her story. And it's good to know about the stories too. Because each one has our own pace, our own joys and everything. But I just wanted to say thank you, Addie. And I resonated that. No? The last piece that I realized, when I was in Texas, I am identified as Latino or as Mexican or Hispanic. In the East Coast, I was called a brown person, a colored person, or Spanish. And when I was in Ghana, somebody told me that the people look at me because I was white. So it's just how is the way that we look, no? But it just caught my attention, how we see each other. So thank you.
Thank you. Others?
I'm actually feeling a lot right now, and my sister Addie Lorraine, we were together on that novitiate. And actually one of the things I wanted to share about was partly why we came to the wordings we came to in the call. Onusa, where are you? Onusa, my sister Onusa. She and I were on the writing committee together for what you received in this little book. And Addie and many others were there in this room. And one of the pieces that we talked about really was our own complicity in social sin. And all I can think about and keep feeling about is, my own contributions to that, whether it was in the past or unwittingly in the present. And how, yes, we are strong about addressing urgent needs and wanting to do and be for others, but how important it is to look home first within myself, and then together, just around us in the room that we now sit, wherever that is. So I'm feeling a lot. I'm feeling the pain, and I have my own stories, as we all do, about not being accepted for being who you are. So that's where I am right now.
Thank you.
There was a few phrases, Sister Addie Lorraine, I can't see you through the podium, but I think you're over there, that resonated with me, these key questions. You asked, do you see me? Will you ever see me? And that both haunts me, and also I can relate to that in my own way as a white person, as a woman, and as a millennial, and as a Catholic. So do you see me? I think that's an important question for us of how do we see each other and experience each other. The other phrase that stays with me, which is important, I think, for a province like ours, and I say ours as a mission leader and humbly as someone who has not taken vows, the importance and impact of dislocation. Sister Addie Lorraine, when you spoke of it sounded like a rupture to move to Mequon. And so I know in this room, people experience dislocation in different ways from their, well, I don't know the proper way, but home province, or dislocation of moving to a different level of care, or understanding the world as it is, and yearning and working for a world that we long for in God's dream. So that impact of dislocation feels very resonant to me at this time.
Thank you.
Ari, amiga, gracias. Thank you. I want to say I've heard some of these stories from Addie in different spaces and places, but I never heard them together. But the most important thing was sometimes when those experiences are shared, there's a lot of anger. And then the walls go up on the other side. We get defensive. But today I experienced something that I had not experienced before. And it's, Addie spoke from her love for your community, from seeing you and knowing you. And that honesty and truth, that vulnerability opened something up. I almost feel like nothing else should be said. But there's this absolute hope in what she said. Aspire to be it. We can become it. And this morning, Addie, I believe you. Yes, you can.
My heart is so full, I don't even know how to, I make my life speaking and I don't even know what to say in the face of such vulnerability, such honesty, such love. As she was telling the story, I remember her being in Mequon and us being at Brother Booker's house and commiserating with each other, like, how are we gonna make it through? And there's so much of her story that I could say is my story as a black man in the church. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for just trusting and loving us enough to share with us your heartache, but also your heart of hope as well. And that's not an easy stance to have. And I just thank you so much. Thank you.
For me, until relatively recently, I have kind of lived in a bubble, just by the fact that I'm from Milwaukee area. And as you may know, Milwaukee is one of the most segregated places in the country. We get that identification from time to time. We're reminded of that. So in my ministry in parishes, I worked as a Christian formation director in mostly suburban, one country parish for 40-some years, really isolated from interacting with people of color, of other traditions even, other cultures. And so, but in the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity by being involved with the McCann Brown Homeless Sanctuary in Milwaukee, and specifically in the garden, of interacting on a basis, serving together with people from the neighborhood who are from other cultures. And I also have had the opportunity to be in a book discussion with some folks from my hometown here in Illinois. And oddly enough, this little town, this book discussion is a mix of people. Whereas the book discussions that we've had with associates are a bunch of us white folks reading about racism, learning about it, which is important, but there's no perspective of someone from a culture other than our own. And so whenever I hear these witnesses, these stories told about experience from people such as Addie or people who are in my group, book discussion group, it always is really quite enriching and eye-opening because I never thought about these things. I was never exposed to them. And the situations that people have experienced themselves. So I thank you for another eye-opening experience, really, to expand my consciousness and understanding.
Thank you. So yesterday in Brian's speech, he spoke about what it means for us to risk imaginative shock. What new, bold, or unexpected actions might faith be asking of us now? I think that many of us in this room can say we experienced a bit of imaginative shock this morning. And that was powerful. It moved us. It did something to us. So I want to ask you all the question. Here's what followed that. Brian spoke about what we would lose if we did take that stand. And someone reiterated it in our Collecting the Wisdom. What would we lose if we took a stand? If we did that imaginative shock, bold action? And so I ask our panelists, what would be lost? And what would be gained?
I ask that question every single day in prayer. I know that our council is asking that. We're dialoguing about this within the community over and over again in light of what's happening in our country and our world especially. And I know we want to act, we want to do, we want to be, we want to sign documents, we want to protest, we want to give monies, we want to do all those great things, and we should be doing that. And we do that. But I know we've also been careful because of the risks that are there. And you know what they are. But I think we also need to look at our own comfortability, privilege, what we expect each and every day to be done for us. I think that the reality of our letting go of so many properties, for example, as we let go of our livelihood sometime and our health, and those are realities that we're facing, and how is that transforming us to then give to others and let go and take those risks again? Those are questions I ask of myself and I ask all of us to look at. So if we do take a risk and we lose a tax-exempt status, or I'm looking at Catherine, Medicare benefits, what does that mean for us? Are we ready to be standing with the poor, as we heard? Are we ready to see that we don't necessarily have what we want or need? Can we trust that we will still be there for each other? Can we put our name out there? And I want Lisa to talk about this as well. When others don't want to do that, or when a large group maybe doesn't want to put their name to it. And I'll just say this last piece, because it's kind of been out there. As part of my discernment for whether to keep my name in for LCWR leadership, was because of what's going on in this country and wanting to the gift and the strength that we have in numbers across all the congregations that LCWR serves. That's one of the reasons why I kept my name in, is because I believe in that, and I feel so passionate that we need to be acting. And that was a big part of the discernment with those folks that discerned with me. So I'll just stop with that for now. But I invite Lisa to speak some more.
I love the phrase imaginative shock yesterday. It felt like a fresh way to consider risk, and I think even asking the question of risk is a privileged position to be in, right? Folks can't opt out of risk a lot of times in their lives. If they maybe don't have papers or look like they may not have papers and they're going to the grocery store, right? So this imaginative shock is very powerful. And one question I keep thinking about is, do we really believe in a Jesus of the resurrection? A Jesus who was killed by the state for what he did and who he was, and that he rose with his wounds. At least on my better days I can believe that. But do we believe that? And do we live out of that belief? And it's a hard order. And my encouragement or hope that I see in this room and those gathered online is that at any point there is not one person who is just holding the belief in the resurrection of Jesus. Some days you're not going to be feeling it. I know I don't. I feel dread. I don't see the hope. But that we have to carry it for each other. I think that's very important. On a more practical level, some of you may know that I just got back from Washington, D.C., where it was 103 degrees plus humidity. And what was remarkable about that time, while it was important that sisters and their allies gathered near the steps of power, where power is centered in this country, whether justly or not, where decision makers gather and are deciding people's fates and lives every day. What was powerful was knowing it was not just about the folks gathered on this area near the Capitol who had cooling towels around their necks, who spoke truth to the realities of migration, of death-dealing policies, of cuts to SNAP or Medicaid that are on the line, but a witness to the resurrection of Jesus and a witness to the power of the collective. It was not just one person running the show. It was not just one community. It was not sometimes usual suspects. It was unexpected allies. It was communities that showed up that were in modified or full habits in the heat. There were sisters and associates and staff members who drove 12 hours to get there. And I hope this comes across more clearly than perhaps I'm articulating. There is a deep moral witness of women religious in this world because of the hope of the resurrection. And so we have to stay true to that. And it will involve risk because it has to, otherwise it's empty. But we have to do that together. We have to do that across lines of geography, of lived experience, of culture, of charism. And that is part of my job, is to help animate that, but it also requires deep relational work among all of you. yeah, so I'll stop there for now.
Let me follow the two of you. As I was listening to Brian yesterday and that whole question, do we take a stand? Where do you stand? I ask you this question, where are you standing? Or maybe sitting. It's okay to sit sometimes. What if, for example, you went to Mass in Spanish one day and you stood with the Latino community there? What if you just stand and pray outside some of these private detention facilities where children are being held? Where are you standing? I think it's not just a matter of reciting a statement, and that's important, and joining others, and that's important. And for God's sake, at the very least, let's join the USCCB. I can't believe I have to say that. I can't believe that. You know, Bishop Gustavo in San Antonio, where are the sisters? They should be standing next to him. And Bishop Sides in El Paso. We all rushed to go to the border, and now we're afraid to pay taxes. It will probably not be a bad thing. But I think the Latino community in our country, the Haitian community, the Iranian community, the families that are being separated and torn apart, our people in agriculture, they need to know we are there and we care. They need to see us. Where are we standing? It's not just a matter of writing a letter. It's where do we go? You know, and there's some geography here. We live in the other part of town. That's the truth. Are we comforting? Are we standing with? Because human dignity, no matter what, that's the gospel. So, where am I standing? Where do I go? And Latinos can't do it right now. They need you. They need you. They need you to stand in the front of the line. That's my take on Brian, and thank you for challenging us.
I want to focus on the questions, are we ready? And the power of the collective. Are we ready? Well, honestly, most of the time we're never ready. Let's be honest. And if we wait until we're ready, most of the time we won't do anything. Seriously. Back in the day, you received your mission and you were never ready for it. But with God's grace, you responded. We're never ready. And none of us are ready because we've never faced a government that is this cruel and mean. I mean, let's be honest. We're living with a government where cruelty and meanness are public policy. They deliberately do what they do to be cruel. They do what they do to be mean. And it stands against everything that we've given our lives to. Compassion, empathy, solidarity. Those aren't just words for us. Those are values we staked our lives on, and they are under attack with the full power and the coercive force of the government, and that's what makes this scary. But then the power of the collective. So yes, they might endanger our 501c3 statuses and our R1 visas and our Medicare benefits, and the list goes on. But notice I said our. I think the power and problem is that when you look and say, they're coming after us, that's the Cindy Central Province, they can't go after you alone, they don't go after everyone. And I think that's where the strength lies in. Do we really think that Donald Trump wants to stand up against all of the religious of the United States? And not only that, but remember, if they go after you, they're going after the men's groups too. And they're going after the Episcopalians and the Baptists. And so in other words, the power of the collective here, yes, there is a risk, but there is a strength in shared vulnerability. And what's the risk if we don't stand up for the things that we've staked our lives on? If we can't stand for radical compassion in this moment, when will we? How will we? And we're never ready. We're never ready. But there is the power of the collective. I love that phrase. Because as I said yesterday, they want us to feel isolated. They want us to feel alone. And when we're not, that's their greatest fear, is that we will discover the power of the collective.
Thank you, Julie.
Many times we have heard, and Jesus told us, do not be afraid. And there is a beautiful song, do not be afraid. And I just remember that it's coming to my mind one time in the community in Woodhaven in Queens, New York. There were several days raining, and we started talking in the community, all the people who are homeless there and no place to go. And I was just saying, well, if I will be homeless, where am I going to go? And I was looking around, where I'm going to see, or what is the place I can choose to stay. And we looked at our convent, and many rooms were empty at that time. And we were talking, well, we can maybe bring somebody and to stay with us. And later, what liability? We are not allowed this. This house belongs to the parish. No, belongs to the diocese. So the diocese policy. So at the end, we stopped our imaginative shock or whatever. We stopped it because we were afraid of the law. We are going to break this law. We are not allowed to do this. So in that sense, it's again, what is preventing me? Why this fear is paralyzing us because of the fear of we are breaking the law and we are going to lose benefits or we are going to be in trouble. But I just remember that just that moment like that, it was very simple. Our house has rooms. It was people in need. We just opened the door, but we closed it immediately because, well, liability. So I just wanted to say this because and Mother Teresa told us many times, trust and dare, trust and dare. And we have our book, but I think that's the challenge. I'm not helping with anything here, but I just wanted to say about, in a sense, how times it looks like simple things that we prevent ourselves because of the fear of the policies or the law. Thank you.
I was originally going to start with this question, but I think it's a nice way to wrap up this conversation. So we've talked about all these issues this morning. We've talked about our feelings, what would happen if you took the risk, if you just said we're going to do it. How have you witnessed the power of SSND, the charism, shaping your lives and the lives of others beyond institutional boundaries? And then what does that say about what we are all in this room called to today?
I'm on the board of directors of Global Partners Running Waters, which is an affiliated ministry of the province. And a year ago, March, I was on a trip to Guatemala with a group of us from the board and friends and benefactors. And we visited a village where we were doing a water project. We were going to complete a water project that had been started by another organization, and then they ran out of money or something happened and it wasn't completed. And so we meet with people in the village often that are impacted by our water projects. And In this village, there was a woman who was a widow. She had her parents and children were living with her. Very independent, very self-sufficient, doing a great job of coping with being a widow and providing for her family. But when she began to talk about, we really need this water in our village. We really need, and to the point of tears. And that was very moving to me and really gave me an insight into how what we are doing as a ministry of SSND is impacting people in their daily lives and in ways that I had never thought about. So that was that personal experience of being there and her witness of how important this was in her life was definitely one of these areas that impact, showing how what we are about impacts the world.
Thank you.
Let me add something. I'm not an SSND, but some days I want to be, because you have some really cool sisters. No. I thought that when I heard that question, two thoughts came to mind. The first is trust your network of influence. It is unbelievable. Now, some communities had healthcare and this and that, but you had students for year after year after year, whole families, alumni. If you called them to their better selves, the incredible influence that you have. And you don't need to be young to exercise that influence. So that's the power of your collective. And the second is the word ecosystem. The charism needs a healthy ecosystem where there's more and more connections that are built across all kinds of boundaries and divisions and difference. But nurture that SSND charism and connect with other communities, with other faith leaders, with other leaders in the community, with caregiving groups, with people who are fighting for Medicaid, and just the people that want compassion to rule. Connect. And that you don't need to be 40 years old. It's okay to be who we are right now, but there's a lot of power in your charism. If those connections happen, it'll flow.
I'm not an SSND either.
But you were formed by them.
No. And so I get nervous trying to tell you what your charism is, but this is